Hey guys, I had such an amazing conversation just now with Dr. Hammond. I mean, you're going to freaking love it. We talked about mindset work and burnout and what that looks like and how people are burning out and what that even means and what does it mean for you to have awareness that you might be on burnout, right? So this was such a great conversation. And I cannot wait for you to listen to an expert tell you and show you how it is you can move yourself along. All right. So you're going to love this freaking episode. I'm going to shut up now so you can watch it. All right. Here we go. What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I am so excited you're here. I say it all the time because it's true. I only say what is true. I love you guys so much. I really just wanted to give you guys a big hug and thank you for all of the downloads and the listenership and the spreading of the word and all that amazing stuff. We're over 100,000 downloads. We are like killing it on listening notes at 1.5% podcast listened to in the country. Like, you guys are showing up and showing out, and I'm really, really grateful for you and the fact that you come here and listen to these amazing humans that I find on this planet to come on here to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. Today is no exception, so buckle up, y'all, okay? I have Dr. Nikisha Hammond here with me. She is a respected psychologist and executive coach and the founder of Hammond Psychology and Associates, now known for her expertise in mental health and burnout prevention. Hello, everybody listening? Burnout prevention, y'all, okay? And leadership development. I love that she is here because Dr. Hammond is truly a force in her field. She is an international speaker. She's a best-selling author. She's also been featured on NBC, ABC, CBS, all the alphabets, all right? Just think of all the alphabets. She's been on it, all right? And Essence Magazine. Now, Dr. Hammond also shares her wisdom on different platforms and in corporate councils, women of color, in TEDx. I mean, she focuses on mental wellness and leadership balance. And I am so glad she's here because I know a lot of you are leaders, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and you guys are always listening to the show telling me that you love the quality of guests that I bring on here. This is no exception, y'all. So, Dr. Hammond, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. How are you?
Thank you. I'm wonderful. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I love your energy and I'm happy to be
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you're here too. You know, I really do have a great audience, and I only put people on the show that I know are going to bring some value. And just in our first conversation, I'm like, okay, of course, yes. Here's my link, woman. Book a time. So I'm so glad to have you. So my first question,
Yeah.
always off the bat, is who are you, right? Because yes, I said your titles and what you've done, but who are you, Dr. Hammond? Who are you?
Yeah, that's such a deep question. I love that question. Who am I? Geez. So in addition to my professional endeavors, I'm also a wife. I'm a mom
Mm,
of, I think, the most amazing 11-year-old son on the planet. I love to be in the community. I love nature. I love seeing people win. Like that gives me
mm,
such great joy to see people win, see light bulbs go off in their head, and then
mhm.
to live happy and fulfilling lives.
Isn't it true? I mean, I think there's something so powerful of when you have gone through things or have experienced things in your life, and then you use that wisdom to impact someone else's life. I talk about that often because it's really one of my passions. It's one of the things I want to do. There's a lot of things in life, I think, Dr. Hammond, that, we have a responsibility to do. And when we have things that happen in our lives or wisdom or knowledge or God given talents that come into our life, it is our responsibility to then help our fellow man, whatever, however that is. At least that's how I see it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I just got into also learning a lot about like financial well-being, retirement, insurance, things like that, because I'm trying to break generational poverty,
Hmm.
and it's because I
Hmm.
was raised in poverty. So I'm like trying to educate as many people as possible. And
Yes,
so I'm like you, right? You get so passionate. You're like, wait, you gotta
yes.
know, you gotta know, you gotta know,
Yeah.
everybody gotta know. So
Exactly.
awesome. I love that. And
Exactly.
I love that you have the best 11-year-old on the planet
I
because we
do.
all feel that way about our babies, don't we? I mean, they're
Yes.
our
Yes.
babies. So that's
Yeah, he's my
awesome.
baby.
Yeah. So tell me about your like journey here. Like why are you doing what you do today? Or like why did you get to this place, right? Why
Yeah.
Dr. Hammond? What's that about?
Yeah. And honestly, exactly what you just said. I'm so glad you brought that up. At this point, I it is a moral obligation. Like you
Mhm.
said, like if you have information that you can drastically change someone's life for the better, I think that we really have a moral obligation to try to reach as many people as we can. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at now. Fast forward 15 years from when I first started my private practice, I'm really in a space now of better understanding the needs of the community when it comes to mental health, when it comes to wellness, when it
Mm.
comes to self-care. And so I also love public education. I love speaking to different groups. I love to hear stories. I've heard a lot of stories, thousands and thousands of stories. But I like I said earlier, like I really love the fact that with information, we can literally change someone's life. Like you
Yes.
mentioned before, what you're doing as well, which is so commendable. Like it changes your life when you get information like, oh, okay, let me try to do things differently. So
Mhm, mhm.
that's what lights me up right now. I'm just like, I'm on a path. I'm like, let me teach as many people as I can burnout
Right.
prevention strategies, how to live a holistic, healthy life, and how to
Right.
be happy because we deserve that.
Right. Was there a moment in your life though that catapulted you into where you're going now, right? Because most of us,
Yeah.
it's my journey. It's like we get to this point where we are burnt out, where we are
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
we're like
For sure.
how am I even waking up the next day? Like what is
Yeah.
happening here? So what was that moment for you? What was that catalyst that put you in this place?
Yeah, and definitely you hit the nail on the head. I share what I share professionally, of course, being in the field, but also personally because I know what it feels like to hit burnout. So
Mhm.
years ago, I was in a place, I just was in a different mental place. And I think my son was, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 or so at the time. And I remember thinking like it was like this team get no sleep and hustle hard and all these things, and it is
Yeah.
okay to work hard, but I literally was getting like maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep purposely, not because I couldn't
Mhm.
sleep, because I chose that, because it made sense at the time. I wasn't taking care of myself physically, emotionally, mentally, like not in a good place at all. Definitely hit burnout. I
Mhm.
remember there was literally a night, it was in the middle of the night, of course, because I was up doing work, and I was like praying to God. I'm like, God, I am exhausted. Like, I need
Mhm.
to get sleep
Mhm.
and I need to change this. It was like this, epiphany moment where we have sometimes. And I still remember having that moment. And I'm like, okay, let me start changing things,
Mhm.
putting things into place. Cause I also wanted to show up as a better mom to my son and as a better wife and a better, business owner and all the roles that I play. And I'm like, I can't do that if I'm when I was that stressed out and exhausted and overwhelmed. So
Mhm.
that really made a personal shift for me. And then now I'm passionate about teaching this because I know what that's like
Yeah.
when we don't have permission to take care of ourselves and we think what we're doing makes sense, but it's not healthy. So
Yeah.
it really does come professionally and personally for me to share this
Yeah.
journey with others.
I love that so much, right? And so my brain automatically I'm a very curious person, so I'm always like
Yeah.
listening to people and I'm like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." So I'm just wondering, like, Dr. Hammond, I used to work so much that I actually got myself ill. I actually put
Mhm.
myself in to have autoimmune conditions and like all this
Yeah,
other stuff that I'm still battling and getting a better handle on.
of
But
course.
Dr. Hammond, I see a lot of people who listen to the show are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, coaches, things like that. So, how can they kind of gauge that maybe they are in a burnout stage but don't even know it? Because for
Yeah.
me, I was just a machine. Boom, boom, boom,
Yep.
get it done, right?
Yep.
14-hour shifts, get there 6 a.m., leave, 9, 10, 11 o'clock a.m., p.m., blah, 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 do what I got to do. And I thought I was tough and I got this, until
Yeah.
I wasn't tough and I didn't have it, like I was sick.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
if somebody's going through this rigmarole, like you said, like you thought that was the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
What do you think they should be looking out for?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So, a couple things to look out for is one is your sleep
Mhm.
patterns. So, are you having quality sleep? It's really, really underestimated how important that is for our health. And now, fast forward, I that is a high priority, a non-negotiable. Have to get a good amount of sleep. But are you having problems falling asleep? Are you having problems staying asleep? Are you choosing, like I used to do, to not get enough sleep, which
Yeah.
definitely tears your body down? So looking at your sleep patterns, looking at your eating patterns, are you gaining a lot of weight? Are you losing a lot of weight? Like, how are you physically doing? Right? Are there, like you said, maybe different issues or conditions coming up for you physically because of how you're treating your body?
Yeah.
The other thing is mentally, how are you doing? If your mind is always racing, or you're thinking about the next thing, or you're not understanding the importance of a pause, of a reset and recharge for your brain, and your brain's always on the go, that's another telltale sign, because you will reach a point of burnout and mental exhaustion if you don't
Mhm.
take the break that your brain needs. So that's just two. There's like a ton of things, but again, mentally and physically, just looking at that, and emotionally too, honestly. Emotionally, how are you doing? Are you irritated? Are you agitated at every little small thing that you didn't used to be irritated and agitated
Yeah.
about? Right? How are you feeling? It's a lot about checking in with yourself, which
Yeah.
also I was not doing at all.
I was just gonna
Highly
say
would
I
not
wasn't
recommend.
either. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
highly would not recommend. But you know what? If someone had told me at that time, you know what? Start checking in with yourself and asking yourself how you're doing, and asking yourself what your needs are at this time, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. What can you do about that? If someone had given me permission, if you will, to like be okay with making myself my number one priority, I might have changed the way I thought about things. And
Mm.
because I know you mentioned before, like working the long hours, go, 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 especially as an entrepreneur, there's nothing wrong with working hard. It's not a replacement, it's an
Yeah.
and. It's like, yes, work hard and take care of yourself. It's
I
not
love that.
or,
I
it's
love that.
and.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. And I used to I feel guilty, right? When people say, you work
Mm-hmm.
too hard. But I actually enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
working hard. Like it's something that I've always enjoyed, you know?
Yeah.
So it never felt like hard work to me until it
Yeah.
was, right? Until like you really do get to that burnout where now you're doing over the hard work, like you're overextending yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're a person who is really driven and really motivated and really want to get things done, you don't realize that you're overdoing it.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, yeah.
one day you literally have this meltdown. Like you just everybody irritates you. You trying to get a
Yeah.
divorce. You trying to leave your kids. Like everything is happening. You're like,
Yes,
I
it's
want to see
true.
nobody, hear nobody, speak to nobody. Yeah, exactly. So does burnout look different to different people?
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
curious about that because so many people well, maybe use the term burnout, but they don't
Hmm.
always explain it, right? So,
Right.
what
Yeah.
does that kind of look like for different people?
Yeah, it looks very differently depending on who you are. So for some people, it's very physical, meaning
Mhm.
like you are physically exhausted and your body does not lie to you. When your body is like breaking down, you're like, I can barely get out of bed. I'm so tired. I feel like I need a nap all day. I don't feel energetic as
Mhm.
I used to be. Like those type of physical symptoms happen sometimes with people with like a physical level of burnout. And then the other end is like a mental burnout where like you're just, well, it's one of the two things. Either you're at the point where you're so overwhelmed mentally that you've really shut down. So you have a
Mhm.
hard time concentrating. You have a hard time remembering how to do your work or how to do things that you know very well how to do because
Yeah.
you're so mentally shut down. Or the opposite is that your brain is just on overdrive and you can't get out of that. It's almost like being stuck. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
ways that burnout shows up. But nonetheless, the good news is you can do things and put stress management or different healthy ways for you to cope in place so you don't have to hit that level of burnout where now you
Right.
can't do anything and now
Right.
you can't function, right? So yeah.
What do you think gets us there, Dr. Hammond? What gets us there, right? Because
Yeah.
who wants to feel that way? Nobody wants to feel that way. So what
Yeah.
is it that drives us or that makes us feel like we have to do that? What do you think that is for some of us?
Yeah. For some of us, it's our upbringing. I know for
Yeah.
myself personally,
Yeah.
like I never, and not to blame anyone, but I don't remember any conversations about self-care or mental health when I
Yeah.
was
Oh,
growing up. It
Yeah, no.
was like,
Yeah,
go,
no.
go, go, get your work done,
Right,
make sure you're in school, do this, do that, like do 5 million things. And there was
right,
no time to reflect or like
right.
take a pause. And now that we're so inundated with information, our brains,
Yes,
we
yes.
have social media, we have traditional media, we have our friends and family calling us, like we're inundated with information, like your
Yeah.
brain needs a break. But that
Mhm.
definitely, for a lot of us, it comes from the upbringing and just what we were taught, which we have to unlearn right now in our
Yeah,
adult years. You have
yeah.
to unlearn the idea that self care is selfish. That's not true. You can
Right.
take care of yourself and then you show up as a better, more powerful version of yourself for yourself and for the people
Mhm,
around you.
mhm,
That's what they
mhm.
want. They don't want an irritated, stressed out version of you. They want
Right.
someone that's doing well and thriving and energetic and, bringing whatever you bring to the table in those different roles that you play.
That's so true. And I think the other thing people want, maybe you can agree or disagree with this, is boundaries. Like a
Oh,
lot of
yes.
people think, if I put boundaries, maybe it's not nice. I've spoken to people that it's not nice, but I said, no, no, boundaries is actually so kind, not
Yeah.
just to that person, but so kind to you. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, because if that person has boundaries, now you're not irritated with them, you're not angry with them, you're not
Yep.
spent, you're not, frustrated. And I think that that's one of the things that women sometimes struggle with is that boundary line, just kind
Mm-hmm.
of having boundaries with your kids, with your spouse, with your relationships, with your clients, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
have healthy boundaries. I'm sure you teach about this because
I
you
do.
you help people with this, right?
I
So
do. I
yeah,
do.
give me like one or two things that somebody's listening could be like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know how to do boundaries. What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, yeah, so boundaries, or I call them also non-negotiables. You
Yes.
should definitely develop what it is for you that is a non-negotiable for your mental health. So for myself personally, right now at this stage of growth, it's physical health highly important. So what I used to tell myself was I didn't have time and all those sorts of things, which is not true. It's just a matter of shifting priorities. So
Yeah.
physical health, very important. Like the gym has to happen. Also, certain boundaries with, like I said, workload. Huge on the boundary setting for that. Sleep, another thing. Like it's about rearranging your time, and
Mhm.
sometimes it does
Mhm.
impact other people, and sometimes they don't like it. So be
Mhm.
prepared. If you have to say, I know some people have said like after a certain time of the evening, they're not answering phone calls or emails or whatever that boundary may look like for you, that works for you and your family. But you put certain things in place because, again, you have to put your mental health first.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, is it going to upset some other people? Yes, sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you want to show up as the best version of who you are.
Yeah, and like you said, at the end of the day, I kind of take that very literal too because we're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so, at the end of the day, you have to show up for you through that day because you're not promised tomorrow. This could be the end of the day, right?
Hmm.
And so we always have to I think we have to pause and just reflect on the fact that we have life and that life is precious
Yeah.
and that life can be taken at any moment, and it will, because all of us are 100% are guaranteed to pass away. But to take care of ourselves in that place and to also have joy, like to find joy in what we do,
Yes. Yes.
because I grew up, I'm Generation X. You grow up, you find a good job, you stay at that job forever and ever for your pension and your good benefits, and then you die. Right. So that's the rules.
Yeah.
And I was always a little bit hard headed. I never really wanted to go down that road, but I always wanted to prove everybody wrong, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, because I had to prove myself. And so I see how I know how I got myself into burnout, just constantly trying to be at top of my game always,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's always a hard thing. So, Dr. Hammond, I know that you have this you in your practice where you help people, and you also have written a book, right? So can we
Yeah.
touch on that? I'd love to know about
Yeah.
your book. So let's touch on that.
Yeah.
What's the name of your book? What's it about? What are we doing picking it up? What tell me about it.
Yeah, so my newest book coming out here soon is Mindset Training,
Oh,
Conquer Your
love it.
Mind, and the rest will follow. Because of the theme of it essentially is, how do you make yourself your number one priority?
Mm,
It is definitely something that a lot of us have to unlearn, this idea of putting everything else above us, especially as women. A lot of times we do everything for everyone, which is
Yep.
good, but also we are neglecting ourselves in the process, which doesn't help anyone in the long run. So currently it's at mindsettrainingbook.com is where you can pick up a copy. And essentially, I really wanted to take an opportunity to give some practical strategies of like, what does that look like? How can you grow as a person physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally?
Mm,
Because when you look at self-care holistically for yourself, that's where you're really going to thrive. A lot of times I think that the problem is we tend to just focus on one area
yeah.
of our life instead of looking at ourselves as the holistic people that we are and the
Mhm.
different parts that interact with each other and make us stronger humans.
It's so true. I think we do that a lot, don't we? We put ourselves in these compartments. I'm at work, I'm
Yeah.
at this person. I'm in a
Yep.
relationship, I'm this person. I'm at home at this person.
Oh,
But at the end of the day, you're
it all
still
affects.
you.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like you're still
all
you. If
affects.
you're grumpy at work, you're gonna be grumpy at home. You're gonna be grumpy in
Yeah.
the relationship. It's who you are. And I think we
Yeah.
have to take that holistic approach. I know that when I was growing up, it was like, oh no, leave that at the office, or leave you this, and then you learn to kind of split yourself.
Yep.
But what's happening now, I think, is that more people are trying to be more congruent with who they want to be,
Yes.
and they're trying to
I
show
love
up
it.
and live a life that's congruent to what they say and do. And
Hmm.
that's a challenge. It could be a challenge because some of our
Hmm.
positions at work are
Yeah.
very like stringent about what you can and say or do or act or whatever. But maybe
Yeah.
that's why, Dr. Hammond, maybe that's why so many people are also leaving that role. I'm
Hmm.
noticing like this big exodus out of these leadership roles and everything, and people are trying to start their own thing or navigate the waters themselves. And I think it's because we are no a lot of us are struggling with living congruent to who we are, and we're
Yeah.
tired of being one way at work and one way at home, and then we don't even know who we are. Dr. Hammond,
Yeah.
we just don't even know who we are sometimes.
Yeah.
To your point, when do we pause to get a holistic view?
Hmm.
Maybe
Hmm.
we have spiritual thoughts and processes that are different than social processes. Why is that? Why are we not congruent with both? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Do you
And
agree with
it's
that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's because we haven't really taken the time that we need to reflect for ourselves
Mhm.
because we're spending so much time on the outer world, if you will, which, yes, is important. But I always recommend for people to ask themselves three questions often, preferably once a week. But the first question is, how am I doing? As in
Mm,
checking in
I
with
love that.
yourself,
I love that.
because a lot of times we're checking in with everyone else around us and we neglect ourselves. So
Mhm.
checking in, like, how am I doing? The second question is to ask yourself, what do I need physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally? And then the third question to ask yourself is, what step do I need to take today to meet those needs, to
Love it.
improve my life? And sometimes it's a baby step, which counts. A
It
lot of us,
does.
especially overachievers, we want to take leaps all the time.
Yes.
Leaps are okay sometimes, but sometimes even a baby step counts too. So if you check in with yourself and you're like, I am exhausted, I'm physically exhausted, I need a break,
Mhm,
that
mhm.
might be the step that you need in that day. But it
So
really
true.
goes back to having that downtime, having that reflection time to check in and know what you need and then start to take the steps to improve your life.
That's so good. That's so good. And and I if I can add to that was is to make yourself your best friend, because
Yes.
you need to stop breaking promises to yourself.
Mhm.
We tend to treat our best friends or our family or our children way better. So if
Yeah.
we say to them we're going to show up for us, like I love what you just said, and that kind of hit me in the heart when you said the gym has to happen. That's a
Yeah. That's
non-negotiable, right? That's what
non-negotiable.
I've been trying to develop in my life, but I break promises to myself, Dr. Hammond, right? So I'll
Mhm.
say I'll go Monday and I don't go Monday. I may go Tuesday or Wednesday, but that's not
Yeah.
fair because I'm not being fair to me. Now, had
Mhm.
my son asked me to go, or my daughter-in-law or anybody else had me, I would have went even if I
Yep.
didn't want to. right?
Mhm.
So check in with you is so important, and also trust you, because when
Mhm.
you start to break promises to yourself, you don't trust yourself anymore. It's like, if your girlfriend is constantly telling you she's going to do something for you and then she doesn't, you're like, well, I'm not hanging out with her anymore because
Exactly.
she's always saying she's going to do something and she's not going to do it. That's what we
Exactly.
do to us, though, isn't it, Dr.
Yeah, we
Hammond?
do.
Like,
Oh,
you
we
bring
do.
you yeah, when are you going to
We
trust
do.
yourself if you say something and you don't follow through, right?
Yeah, we do that all the
Mhm.
time.
All the time.
But
All the
it
time.
that's I love your analogy of a best friend. It's the same thing with negative self-talk, for example.
Mhm.
Like paying attention to the things you're saying to yourself,
So
and that's
true.
something I also had to work on. I had a very strong inner critic, like like the
Mhm.
way I would speak to myself. I really had to catch myself. And someone said a while back when I was working on that, they're like, imagine yourself talking to someone that you care deeply about. So I'm in your head, in your own head. So my son, I adore my son. So I would never talk to him the way that I was talking to myself, like that harsh inner critic, the things that we
Yeah.
say to ourselves. So I really had to work over time on positive self-talk, and watching that. But it, like you said, exactly like how we would treat our best friends or how we would treat someone in our lives and the things we would say to them, we have to be careful what we're telling ourselves as
Yeah.
well, because we
Yeah.
deserve that too.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
deserve to have that positive
100%.
talk as well. Yeah.
100%. You know what I think, and you're pointing at it the whole time, is that self-awareness.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is. Like, you're literally just being self-aware, not
Mhm.
selfish,
Yes.
self-aware. Like,
Yes.
people always assume that being self-aware is being selfish. Well, I think that not being self-aware is being selfish. You're not even thinking of yourself, right? You're
Yeah.
thinking that you're all that. There's things going on inside of you that you need to address, right? And
Mhm.
all of us do. Oh, come
Oh
on
yeah.
now. If we had if somebody could open up our mind and just read what we think, Lord, we all be in trouble. We would be in
Yeah.
trouble, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that you are doing this. I love that your intention is to impact people's lives this way and to
Yeah.
really just have them refocus on who they are. And I love that your book is on mindset, because
Yeah.
we need strategies on how to
Mhm.
actually implement them, because most of us, I think, will say, oh no, I have a strong mind. But then if we did what you just said about listening to that inner critic
Yes.
and like putting that on somebody that we care about, we would
Yeah.
realize maybe we're not as strong as we think we are.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
okay, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so since I know that I'm speaking to a lot right now, me and you are both catching the ears right now of a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and coaches and all these amazing people that are out here building lives and doing things, right? What do you
Yeah.
think they should what should they do to level up, you think, in their self-awareness, in their self-care, in that catching that inner critic? What would be like a tip or two you can give them to walk away with?
Yeah. Yeah. One is, this is one of my favorite things that I started with a while back, as well, but I call it taking a minute. And so if you're in a place where you're stressed out, overwhelmed, like I don't have time for the self-care thing, all of that, I've been there. I know that
Mhm.
life. But what you can start with is taking a minute a day. And you can literally set your cell phone timer for 60 seconds. And in that time, you give yourself permission for you to have that time for you. So if it's taking 60 seconds for deep breathing, if you believe in prayer, I'm a nature person, so if you want to watch a sunrise or sunset or whatever it is that you spend that 60 seconds a day doing, what it does is you start to retrain your brain to
Mhm.
say, I deserve to have self care. I deserve to be emotionally healthy. I deserve to have this time for me, because some of us are dealing with like worthiness issues when it comes to
Mhm.
self
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
So that is also a way to start. It's literally 60 seconds as a start. Now, currently, I take a lot more than 60 seconds, but I didn't start that way because
Right.
I was, so overwhelmed and just not where I needed to be mentally when it came to the self-care. But you start with that, and it's a really beautiful journey, and you start to learn some things about yourself, because when you're alone with your thoughts or you have quiet time, if you choose to do that for your 60 seconds, you start to learn more things about you. But it definitely starts, like you said, with that self-awareness. It's a
Mhm.
big, powerful piece.
You know what, Dr. Hammond, too? You know what's kind of sad too and great is that it's 60 seconds and most of us are struggling with that. Right? I mean, isn't
Yeah.
that something? 60
Yeah.
seconds. And I know a lot of y'all who are listening because I can see you. Y'all probably were like, 60. I got a lot of things to do. I don't have time for that. 60 seconds, y'all.
60
60
seconds, not
seconds.
60 minutes. 60
Exactly. She said
seconds.
60. You
Set
have
your
plenty
cell
of
phone alarm.
time. You have plenty of time to do a 60-second. It's just amazing how our brain tries to keep us in the go because that's what we've known to
That's
protect us for so long.
exactly.
You know, and
Exactly.
so since we know that's what's protecting us, your brain is going to go, no, 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 we can't stop. You got to go, go, go. Because if you stop, you're going to have some issues. So we got to keep going. But
Yeah.
60 seconds is so doable, Dr. Hammond. It's so
Yeah.
doable, right? So I'm
Yes.
glad you gave them that as a as a takeaway. And I want to see
Yes.
how many people actually implement what they're
Yes.
listening to. I love it. I love it. I love what you're doing. I really do. I love that you are pouring into others. And before we wrap up, I want to make sure that people know like where to follow you, where to get
Yeah.
your book. Like, do you have content out there? Like, can people follow you and follow your content, things like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the best way to learn all about me is my website, drnikeshahammond.com, DRNEKESHIA Hammond.com. And I'm on any social media platform, but I am always sharing information about mental health and wellness on all my
Awesome.
platforms
Love that.
because we all need that inspiration and motivation and uplifting with the roller coaster that
Seriously.
life has for us.
Seriously. Yes, seriously. I mean, thank you so much because I think one of
Yeah.
the biggest challenges that we've had is that we've stopped living our lives and started watching others live their lives. And because we're watching others live their lives, we go through these comparison issues and we have to
Yep.
be just like them. And we used to call it, what was it? Keeping up with the Joneses, right? We used
Oh,
to call it
yeah.
that back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
like, it's what we're doing, but we're doing it now at a wider scale because
Oh,
you
yeah.
have so many things at your fingertips now, so take that pause, listen to Dr. Hammond. Dr. Hammond, thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on here and dropping so much wisdom. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a
So
delight.
good. So good. Guys, I told you that you would like her. I know, right? It's only 30 minutes. It's like it feels like it went by in seconds and she's so amazing. I'm going to make sure to link all of her information below. I want you to also pick up her book. Make sure that you support and go read it and do something about it. Like, listen, knowledge is power when applied. Okay? Knowledge is not just power. You have to apply it. So go ahead and pick up that book and start applying it so that you have that power in your life to not get burnt out, to have that self care, and to rise above what you even thought you can do. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Like, share, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear this message. I'll talk to you soon. This is Nina Perez, Straight Talk, no sugar added.